This is the Digital Marketing Experts Podcast episode. No, why am I trying to sound like a radio announcer? Experts on the Wire, episode 36. Brian Dean. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 36 of Experts on the Wire. Before we get into today's show, just a quick shout out to Ryan Glass, who is at RyanGPHX on Twitter. Give him a shout out. I just want to thank you, Ryan, for sharing the show on Twitter today. And I noticed that somebody else saw the show, seemed excited about it, and is going to check it out. So thanks everyone for sharing the show on Twitter, for the emails I've been receiving. I feel like we've been gaining a little momentum here in getting some more listeners to the show. So if you know anyone that would enjoy listening to the show or benefit from all of the knowledge that all the wonderful guests share, I would greatly appreciate if you tell them about it. And also, if you have a second to leave a review in the iTunes store, I would greatly appreciate that as well. We're up to 17 5-star reviews. So really happy to hear people are finding value in the show. Today, we have our first return guest to Experts. And actually, Tom Critchlow was on the show twice, but he interviewed me the second time. So it doesn't really count. Brian Dean of Backlinko. He appeared on episode 3 of Experts on the Wire, and his episode has been the most downloaded to date. So when I heard he was going to be in my neck of the woods in New England, he's in Providence and I'm in Massachusetts, I jumped on the opportunity to bring you another exclusive interview with Brian. Today, we dive deep into email marketing, specifically the mistakes people make when collecting emails on their website and the right way to do so. He reveals the exact conversion rates on one particular page on Backlinko, which might surprise you. It's an untapped opportunity. He also tells us what the absolute most effective method of email capture actually is. He also gives his honest, unfiltered opinion on welcome mats, pop-ups, and what to do with Google's upcoming pop-up penalty coming to mobile in 2017. This interview was also recorded on video, and I'm laughing because it's not a very attractive video. We just kind of sat in some chairs with a concrete wall behind us. We were sort of in between the mall and the hotel in Providence, but it was a nice quiet area where we could set up the mic and do the interview. So if you want to watch it on YouTube, you can find it on my YouTube channel, which is EvolvingSEO. And without further ado, let's get to episode 36 of Experts on the Wire with Brian Dean. But Brian, it's great to see you.
You too,
here in Providence.
Cool, man. Providence, Rhode Island.
Now you're from here, right?
I'm from right in Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
Oh yeah,
which is next door.
Yeah, and Pawtucket's not known for being super nice or anything.
No, actually, the nickname of Pawtucket is Pawtucket the Bucket. So that gives you an idea. Actually, a lot of people just call it the Bucket.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because it's more accurate than Pawtucket. It gives you a good idea of what to expect when you go there.
Yeah. Now you live in Germany though now.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So what brings you back to town here for a little while?
Well, I just want to see my family. It's been a while. Last time I was here was November.
Yeah.
So almost a year ago. Came back. I'm also speaking at SumoCon in Austin.
Oh, right.
In a couple weeks. So I figure while I'm here, instead of flying over my home, I might as well stop by and see the family and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great. So I knew about this opportunity to interview you for a few days, and I really did some research. I wanted to try to dig, not ask you all the same questions. I'm sure you get asked a lot of the same questions, and it's fun just chatting with you anyways. But let's just dive right in. I asked our employee, Anthony, at Evolving, and I asked our mutual friend, Dimitri, who does PR, what I should talk to you about.
Okay.
They both said email lists.
All right.
And I dug up and I found a presentation you gave that's on YouTube from a couple years ago where you talked about building email lists. I want to just really start full speed right there. Why do people hate pop-ups?
They're annoying. I think people hate them because you go to a web page, do one thing, and it literally interrupts whatever you're doing and prevents you from doing that thing. Very few people go to a page to sign up for an email list.
Yeah.
And so anything you're doing other than that, the pop-up makes it one step harder to do.
Yeah.
So that's why they're universally hated.
So you've probably heard of this Google interstitial penalty that's coming to mobile in 2017. So for anybody watching that's not familiar, in 2017, Google's going to penalize sites in mobile, not desktop, but only mobile searches, if they have a pop-up on the landing page from search. They're not going to rank as well. So what are your thoughts on that? Does this indicate a sign of is this the end of everything for pop-ups, or do they still have a healthy future ahead of them?
I think they have a future, not as healthy. This is definitely a big announcement. A lot of people, mostly people who run pop-up companies, try to sort of say, well, this is only for mobile, only annoying ads, and they made a lot of assumptions about what these pop-ups that will and won't get penalized are. And the fact is we don't know. So my take is that this is a first step in a long series of steps that will not eliminate, but really change how aggressive you can be with pop-ups. Because right now, there are the welcome mats, which in my mind are as annoying, if not more annoying than pop-ups. You also have what Forbes does, which I don't know how they get away with that, which is you click on the page to read an article and it literally has another page for you to look at with a countdown timer, and then you go to it. That kind of stuff should be penalized anyway. But I think this is a first step to Google saying, look, we have RankBrain now. We know if someone likes a page or not. And our data is showing us that when there's a pop-up on the page, people are less happy, which makes sense. They should be less happy. I'm less happy. So I think this is definitely something that we have to think about. Luckily, I haven't made any moves yet because it just was announced last week, and we have until January 10th. So I'm just kind of thinking about it, letting my subconscious think about what the best step is. But I think there will always be some level of pop-ups, but they'll probably have to be different than the automatic you go to a page and it appears style. That's going to go.
So you just said that you don't like welcome mats. They annoy you. Do you use welcome mats on your site?
No, I don't use welcome mats.
So what's your feeling about so Sujan Patel uses a welcome mat on his site. He's one of the few people I've seen do it kind of creatively, where it's not as annoying. But is your feeling about welcome mats at this point to try to stay away from that? Like, would you advise people that are trying to collect email addresses to use other methods?
I would, because my take on the welcome mat is this. First of all, it's not welcoming at all, right? It's like a very misleading thing. I used to use them and they actually work really well. So if you're like, I'm on the fence. At some level, I'm always like, try it, and if it works, keep doing it. And if people haters are gonna hate, right? People are gonna get upset if you use a pop-up. They're gonna get upset if you do anything. So use the pop-ups, use the welcome mats and whatever. The reason I have issue with the welcome mat is that a lot of people use it on the first page load. So if you've never been to Evolving SEO before and you see, oh wow, Brian's on the podcast, let me check it out. And you go there and the first thing you see is this asking for your email. It's not even gonna convert well because there's no incentive for them to do it. But also you're gonna have kind of a bad first impression of that site and that person. So I think if you use them on a second page load, which is how I use it, and I know some other people that use it that way. So if you visit a page, you read it, then you go to another page, then you get the welcome mat. I feel like that's less annoying. You've already had an opportunity to be impressed enough to go to another page. That said, I don't use them because I prefer exit intent pop-ups. That way, only people who are going to leave the site anyway see the pop-up. You're not interrupting anyone's normal flow, because you asked me why they're annoying. It's because they interrupt what you're doing. This time you're interrupting them leaving your site. And they can always just leave anyway. You're not really, it can't stop them from doing it, unlike a pop-up, which can stop them from reading or doing something else. So in my mind, the exit intent pop-ups, and when you optimize them well, they can convert just as well as the other stuff, and they're less annoying. And I think Google will be more forgiving of those because they're not interrupting a searcher as they're trying to learn something. They're going to leave anyway.
Right. So do you use the SumoMe plugin for other features?
Yes. I use SumoMe and OptiMonster.
Okay, what are some of the features that you use for SumoMe? Besides, so not the welcome mat, but what are some?
So I use on certain pages I use their exit intent pop-up, which is very good. I also they have a thing called the scroll box, which is kind of like HubSpot, I think, pioneered it. It's where you're scrolling down the page, and as you're scrolling down, a little box appears from the lower right-hand side of it and says sign up for the email list.
Right.
That's a lot less intrusive. I feel like Google, if they do go after something like that, it'll be like 5 years from now.
Yeah.
When they really dominating, they can get away with that stuff. But for now, that's really safe. It's much less annoying.
Yeah.
And SumoMe has a great thing that's really great from that. From OptiMonster, I also use their exit intent because they have an easy way to make full page ones. So I found that the full page converts a lot better than the box. So I have these full page ones with the animated GIF behind it. It's like very elaborate, very eye-catching for exit intent.
Right.
So depending, I use both. They're kind of like, they have different pros and cons, so I use them both.
Awesome. So I did kind of hit the ground running with the pop-up thing. I want to back up a little bit now because I did want to, the pop-ups is a huge conversation right now. Like there's a thread on Inbound where a lot of people are talking about, is this the death of pop-ups, of welcome mats and so forth. But let me bring it back a little and put it into context. So for those people that aren't familiar with you with Backlink Go, and I want to just set it up. So basically you run a content website where your goal is to get the email addresses, which then you can email people, and then some of those people will purchase your training product.
Exactly.
Yeah, so to put it into context, that's really your bread and butter, is the email collection in your email list, and that's why I think Anthony and Dimitri both said, talk to Brian about his email list, because I'm sure it's something that you obsess over and that you really think through carefully. So just wanted to put that in context for the viewers or the listeners on the podcast. This is my first video version of the podcast, by the way. I'm very excited to do that. So what are some methods of email collection that you would recommend besides the exit intent? What are some of the other tactics for email collection that you would recommend?
Yeah, that's a good question. Here, I think the deal is, a lot of people, what they do is they'll have their website like it's set up. So they set it up without much thought about collecting emails because it's hard, it's difficult. Like we talked about last time, it's a monster to feed. Once you have an email list, you have to do something with the email list, and not everyone has the time or energy, or sometimes it doesn't even make sense for their business to spend a lot of time on an email list. For most it does, but for some it doesn't. So they set up their site for design, to show off how great they are, to make the content easy to find, easy to read. And then what they'll do is they'll use software to kind of retrofit their site to collect emails. They'll add something for pop-ups, or they'll add a scroll box. And actually that can work okay, but you're better off building your design from the ground up with the intent to collect emails. When you do that, you'll double your list building versus trying to take an old Chevy and add a new engine to it and think it's going to run the same.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. So what I do is when I build this, I actually have a new design coming out for Backlink Go today that's getting rolled out.
Oh, wow, exciting.
Yeah, it's
just today.
Yeah. So, but it's similar to the old one because it's designed to collect emails. So for example, with my homepage back in the day, I had what's called a feature box, which is like a big box above the fold that said sign up for the email list. And it actually converted okay, but the problem was you could just scroll right down and go to the content. So very few people converted compared to when I changed the homepage to basically an email collection page.
Right.
So it's a page that shows off a little bit about Backlink Go and what it's about, but it also has a huge call to action above the fold. Below that, there's an offer for a free ebook. Then below that, there's blog posts. And in the footer below that, there's another email collection. Same thing with your About page. About page is an awesome way to collect emails. Mine converts to like 8%.
I was going to ask you about that.
Okay.
In that video, you said at the time, this was 2014, your About page was converting at 6%. So it's actually gone up.
Yeah, it goes. Yeah, because I think when I did that, I had the old design.
Okay.
So this is the second design. This is the third one that's coming out today. So the new one, once I saw that worked, the old one, it converted 6%, and that was a retrofit. I had the old About page, and I just stuck a form on there.
Yeah.
And it went from 0, because there's no form, to 6%. And now I've done a little bit more with making it look nice and integrated on the page.
Right.
But that's the idea, is like, when you build these pages, you want to think, I got to make this for emails. How can I collect emails with this? And if you go to my site, it doesn't look like it, right? You don't go there and think this is designed to collect my emails. It doesn't feel like that scammy thing. And it's because it's built that way. It only looks like that when you have a site that's built for not collecting emails. Then you try to squeeze emails out by adding all this software. And that's when it looks like shady, you know what I mean? And that's when it's more annoying. But if you build it from the ground up like that, it works a lot better. So that's what I recommend before I go into like tools and tactics and things like that.
Yeah, so talk to us a little bit about the About page. I know you, in this video, I'll link to it in the show notes, that it's a presentation you gave in 2014. What are some elements on the About page that people should think about? Because I think it's a great idea, right? I mean, you explain in the video, the people going to your About page are not the ones thinking like, oh, this idiot wrote a terrible article, right? It's the people that are probably starting to feel like they're fans of yours or they like you. What are some elements that you can actually put on the About page to even encourage them more to sign up for the email?
That's a good question. So I think the first thing I do is make the About page about them and not me.
Huh, interesting.
So it's kind of counterintuitive. And I noticed a lot of people doing that, and I read it. I don't remember where I heard it from, but I heard that once. And I was like, that's pretty smart. And you can actually do both. So when someone reads an About page, yes, they want to learn more about you, and yes, you should put some of your About page 100% about you. I'm so-and-so, I'm from here, I help people do this, blah, blah, blah. The problem is when someone goes to an About page, like anything, they're always thinking, what's in it for me? So when they go to an About page and it's like, hi, I'm so-and-so from who cares and blah, 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 you just killed their curiosity.
Right.
So the key to having an About page that's effective but also collects emails is to reinforce what you can do for them. So that's why when you go to my About page, it's all about the whole top 2/3 is all about how I can help you. So when you're visiting, how I can help you get more traffic and higher rankings. That way, they'll think, oh, this is exactly what I'm looking for, and then when they see that first form, they're going to type it in.
So let me clarify what you're not doing, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's all right, man.
I want to, because I'm trying to imagine what some of the listeners might be thinking. What you're not doing is you're not telling your story, like, at the very top. You're not like, hi, my name's Brian Dean, I did this, and then I did that, and I live in Germany, and I have a dog, or whatever. You're telling the people, it's almost like you're thinking of, like, how can I serve you, and you're telling them that, right? So are you actually consciously thinking, like, I'm not gonna, like, give my bio here, I'm gonna actually tell people what I can do to serve them?
Exactly. So I mean, I say it in no uncertain terms. I think the text at the top of the About page, I'm not exactly sure how it's phrased, I should know that.
Yeah.
It says, how Backlinko can help you.
Right.
It's like literally saying it. And then but you still want that dog bio stuff, because there are people that want that, and you want to humanize your site and put that.
Yeah.
The problem is you don't want to lead with that. You want to lead with how you can help them. That way they're going to think, this site's great, this is here to help me. And when that first form appears, they're going to be more likely to sign up versus when they read about where you grew up. You know what I mean? They're going to be much more primed to sign up. Then at the bottom, that's where I put my bio. So basically how I lay it out is like, first start off with how I can help them. The middle is a little bit about my experience and how I can help them and maybe some things I've done. And then the last is just like the kind of the end of a book.
Right.
You know, so-and-so lives in Maine with his daughters or blah, 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 that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because that actually you want to have that too, but you don't want to lead with it. And it makes a big difference in terms of conversions.
Are you doing anything to try to drive people proactively to the About page, or are you just letting that traffic trickle to the About page like it normally would?
I don't do any. Well, I have a menu on the site that is only
very minimal.
It's very minimal.
Yeah.
So it's basically home, because that page converts well. So I want people to, when they read a book, because most people come to a blog from a blog post, right?
Yeah.
So I want them to go to the home page because that converts really well.
Right.
So it has home, about, contact, and a squeeze page.
Yeah.
So the About page is pretty prominent. So a lot of people, I'd say about 1% of visitors end up visiting there.
Okay.
So it's not that many, but considering it's not like the most compelling page.
Right.
It's not like a blog post going to help somebody get more traffic, then it's okay because it's in the menu pretty prominent.
But then it converts at 8%, so you're still doing pretty good. So I want to jump to some other questions about email collection and then talk even more about email maintenance and that kind of thing. But you mentioned exit intent pop-ups. What about squeeze pages? Is that just like a older trendy term? You know, I'm not into email marketing as much, so if somebody hears the term squeeze page now, what should that mean to them? Should they be building a, quote, squeeze page?
Yeah, they should actually. The name, do you know what the name comes from?
I don't.
It's kind of like you squeeze the email out of somebody.
Okay.
That's where the name comes from. It's like the page is designed, you have nothing else you can do.
Yeah.
Like it's literally give me your email and get out.
There's like no menu?
No menu, no terms of service, like nothing, just a form.
Yeah.
And a pitch to why you should sign up. So I think you should still use squeeze pages. They're called landing pages a lot of times now because it sounds better, but it's basically a squeeze page. Okay. I think every blog should have a dedicated squeeze page on their blog and have that linked to somewhere prominent, like in the menu or the sidebar.
Yeah. So I always thought of squeeze pages as like an orphaned page that you might send paid traffic to, but it's not that literal. It's just like any page that's minimally designed to only get the email address. That's like the sole intent of the page.
Yes, and it would be similar to one that you would send paid traffic to.
Okay.
It could be the exact same page, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the squeeze page for you on your site? Is it the home page or is it the about page?
That's not really a squeeze page, because on the home page there are options like you have the menu.
Yeah, the footer.
You have at the bottom, it shows 2 of the latest blog posts.
Yeah.
So it's not as squeeze. It definitely is designed to get emails, but it's not like a squeeze page. When you go to Backlinko, on the top there's a menu. One of them says proven SEO tips. When you click on that one, that takes you to a squeeze page.
Okay.
That's 100% email. I think we might have the menu still, so it's not super squeezy, but it's still designed to collect emails. And
Got
it converts that converts at like 20% or something like that.
So you definitely still recommend the use of squeeze pages?
Definitely, and I recommend people on a blog make that a prominent link so people can visit that page.
Got it. So there's one quote that we pulled from a post that that the URL is backlinko.com/increase conversions. We'll link to it in the show notes. Mm-hmm. You say in there, I have a grand total of 54 opt-in forms on my blog. The 2 little lead pages links that I added to my Google ranking factors post now account for 30% of all new subscribers. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure when you wrote that quote. Is that in fact true? And can you talk to me about that a little bit? So like these 2 pages get 30% of all of your email subscriptions?
Well, that was true
Yep.
because, just to give context to what I'm talking about, that was when I first started something called the content upgrade, which is by far, besides building your site from the ground up, to collect emails, the most effective way to build an email list by a mile. But the reason that was so skewed as so powerful was because that was the old design I had that wasn't designed for emails. I was retroactively doing this stuff. Mm-hmm. It was before I rolled out the new design, which is the current one until today, that's more designed to collect emails.
Right.
So my site wasn't that optimized. I had those 54 forms, and they weren't converting that well, so it's easy to beat. Also, that was a content upgrade. That was the only one I had. Now I had them on almost every post, so it's not as skewed. But the fact remains, it's still very, very powerful.
I'm glad you mentioned content upgrades. I sort of led you into that a little bit. In 2015, you called them the future of email collection. So for those that don't know what they are, just explain the content upgrade a little bit, and then tell me, where do you feel like they stand now? Are they still the future of like the best way to capture emails?
Yeah, well, the first thing, what they are is basically the most important way, best way to explain it is to explain what they aren't. So how I used to do it, how I used to collect emails on my site was in a piece of content, I'd have the content, you'd read it, and then at the end there'd be a call to action, like sign up for my newsletter. Or in the sidebar, it would say, sign up for the newsletter, or take them to a squeeze page. The problem with that is that it wasn't related to what they're reading on any level, not even by topic. So for example, if you're reading something about on-page SEO, I wasn't even saying, get this ebook about on-page SEO. And if you're reading about building an email list, I said, get this ebook about building an email list. It was like 100% generic across the entire site. So what the content upgrade does is it targets the offer very, very specifically to what they're reading, to the point where it's literally an upgrade of the post that they're reading.
Right.
So for example, if you have a post like 25 SEO tips, you give a report that says get a PDF that has all 25 listed here plus 5 extra. Mm-hmm. So it's really an upgrade on top of what they're reading. And because it's so targeted to what they're reading and you've already impressed them with your content, it converts very well. Mm-hmm. So for me, that was a whole game changer because like I said, I was getting 30% of my emails from this one post. It was the most high traffic post on Backlinko, but still 30% from one post, 2 links and /forms compared to 50 or whatever I said on the entire site. It was crazy. Yeah. Now I've rolled that out across almost the entire site because it works so well.
Wow, amazing. So do you still feel like content upgrades are the future of, as according to what you said in 2015, the future of email capture, of getting email addresses?
I don't know about that like tactic of a content upgrade. I feel like already it doesn't work quite as well because a lot of people are using it, and like anything, Gary Vee says it best. Marketers ruin everything.
Yeah.
So once I I actually didn't even invent this. I first saw this woman, Kim Roach from BuzzBlogger, do it. And then I saw my friend Brian Harris do it at Video Fruit. And then I started doing it too. And once I wrote the case study and people started writing about it and I went on podcasts talking about it and stuff, it started to blow up. And then people tried it, it worked. They reported on their results and like it just went kind of viral in a way and became this like the way to collect emails. So I feel like it's become a little bit less effective, at least in the marketing space, because people are using it, but if you have like a food blog or a blog about fitness or something, it's still being underused, so it still works. So I think the tactic, like any tactic, may not work as well in the future, but the idea of saying, okay, when someone comes to my site, I need to offer them an incentive to sign up for the email list. They're not going to sign up without an incentive. So I have two options. I can give them something generic that everyone sees on every page, or I can target it to what that visitor wants at that time. That strategy will always be better than the generic offer.
What you're really talking about here, to jump a little philosophical, theoretical, is the idea of being creative and staying ahead of what everyone else is doing. Because I noticed that as well. Like, things have a shelf life, right? Once everyone starts doing them, become less effective because people get aware of it and they realize what's going on. So I was just wondering if you could comment on that a little bit as like a philosophy or as an approach to marketing in general. And maybe some things that you try to do to stay ahead. Like, what are some things that, Brian Dean is thinking about right now in terms of the future of email capture in maybe a little bit more specific way?
Yeah, my philosophy is not trying to stay one step ahead of the trends or what's happening, because first of all, you have to make a lot of predictions to be right. You have to be right about what's coming and what's ending, and then always trying to be one step ahead. My philosophy with marketing in general is to really focus on the fundamentals and keep things really simple. I used to try to the reason I don't do that is because with SEO, when I first started, I always tried to stay one step ahead of Google. And I quickly found that one step is not far enough, and I got penalized all the time. Because I started with affiliate marketing, creating these stupid one-page websites, and I got nailed by Panda, then Penguin. And I felt like I didn't always want to stay one step ahead of something that's going to end. And I feel like if you always focus on the fundamentals, and like I said, giving someone who comes to your site what they want, something of value, you can never go wrong. The tactic may not work as well, but so what? It's going to work better than the generic thing. So the reason that content upgrade spoke to me was not so much like, this is a future. It would have worked the same 5 years ago. It just hadn't been developed, And actually, some guy reached out to me after I published, and he was like, I was doing this like 5 years ago on my blog. I had a thing about, his blog was about Microsoft Excel and how to do all this advanced stuff, and he gave away like macros or something if you signed up.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is not a future of marketing type of thing, it's just like a common sense.
Yeah.
And I think so my philosophy is not to try to stay one step ahead, it's really just to focus on the fundamentals of things that won't change. And that way you don't have to lose sleep about some tactic ending. It's the same way with Snapchat. For me, Snapchat is so stupid to spend a second on that when there's email collection. Email is one of those fundamental things I focus on. It's not the future of marketing, right? It's becoming less effective because people are using Facebook now. There's more emails than ever. There's tabs in Gmail. There'll be future technologies that will really filter out marketing messages even better than they do now. So in a lot of ways, it's becoming less effective. It's definitely not the future of marketing, but it'll always work because there'll always be email. People always use email to confirm an account, to get messages. So I feel like I like to focus on the fundamentals. That way you don't have to feel like you're always one step ahead of the next wave of what's coming.
Very interesting, and I want to go back to that philosophy. You read my mind. I pulled a quote of an interview you gave where you said, quote, if you're spending a second on Snapchat instead of email or content marketing, you're an idiot. That was your exact quote.
Where did I say that?
It was an interview you gave at a conference, I think in 2015.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
I do a lot of research for these
I
interviews.
can see that. I don't even remember saying that.
Yeah, so I dug that up. But
I believe it, yeah.
So it's interesting because there seems to be this sort of like conflict, but maybe not, where in one breath you say, I'm sticking with email, don't use Snapchat, but in the other breath you say, email is not the future, less and less, it's becoming less effective. So how can you continue to use email and have it be effective when in the grand scheme of things it's becoming less effective? People are paying attention to other things.
It's a great question, Dan, and how I reconcile it is that I always look for what's the best strategy, right? What is the best marketing strategy? And in my mind, building an email list is the number one way to do anything online. For marketing, for branding, for promoting content, whatever it is, the email list is everything. Like if you have an email list, everything's possible. If you don't, nothing's possible. And I think that'll always be true. The problem is, even though it's becoming less effective, it'd still be number one. It's kind of like in sports. like in the AFC East, the Patriots win the AFC East every year. And this year, they're not going to have Brady for the first 4 games. So they may go 11-5 instead of 12-4, but they're still going to win the division. It's the same idea. So email might be the Patriots this year, but they're still going to be number 1. There's going to be nothing will usurp email as the most powerful marketing channel.
Right.
So that's kind of how I see it. It's becoming less effective, but it'll still be number 1. So as long as it's number 1, it makes sense to invest in.
And so are you, in your mind, are you comparing email to the options in social, to the options in other types of subscription-based activities that people will subscribe to, like your YouTube channel? Is that what you're comparing this to in your mind, is like a way to kind of capture your audience in one place?
Exactly. It's not even to capture it in one place. I'm okay with cross-seeding and getting YouTube subscribers and Twitter followers and Facebook likes. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is you don't own those channels. With email, you really do, at a very fundamental level, own that email address until the person says, I'm out. With Facebook, the person can like you and say, hey, I want to see your stuff, and Facebook can create a pay bridge between you and your subscriber, what they do all the time. Or Twitter can do the same thing, and they have with what they're rolling out now. Snapchat will probably, if they're not already, doing something similar. So until there's something else, I'll stick with email, because when you look at what else is out there, the options are they're not even close. So even as email gets less effective, there's nothing else that's even a close second.
Yeah, I mean, I see and sometimes hear about these people building a celebrity status for themselves on Snapchat or on YouTube. You look at somebody like Casey Neistat with his daily vlog, right? What are your thoughts about that? I mean, it seems, and I'm purposely playing devil's advocate a little here, just to dig a little deeper. There are people that do seem to have success off of that. So what would your reply be to that? Is it still, they're still missing out on something?
I don't think so. I think if you have if you're like a YouTube person, you're like, look, I'm going to go all in on YouTube, and I'm going to do a daily vlog, or I'm going to be like on Instagram. I'm going to be an Instagram model, and I'm going to just like crush it on there. Then you can do really well with that. And it's probably not going to be very effective to even get people to sign up for your email list. The problem is you're going to live and die by that. So as long as it's going well, you're going to go great. But you're very leveraged, because as soon as YouTube changes something, you can go to 0. It's kind of like if you rely on SEO for 100% of your traffic. It's great when it's going great until it's not. And then you're toast. Then it's go to 0.
Yeah.
So just like anything, you want to diversify your traffic sources. You want to diversify where you have people subscribe. The great thing about email is that you don't really need to diversify, because that's a consistent thing. Someone's email doesn't change that much. And there's not going to be some algorithm change that's going to prevent you from getting delivered, period. It might put you in the promotions tab, but you'll at least be seen, versus Facebook, where it's almost impossible to get in front of your organic audience now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think there's something to that, man. And some people crush it on YouTube. They're doing great. They don't have one email subscriber, and they're doing great. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is it's very risky. Once YouTube changes algorithm one day, or shuts down your account, which you have no control over, maybe they think you're doing something shady, your account shut down, all of a sudden you're homeless. Right? That sucks. You don't want to be in that position.
Yeah, so you're looking at this from a risk mitigation standpoint as well.
That's definitely a big part of it.
That totally makes sense. Let's talk a little about maintaining an email list. And I do want to dig in a little to the idea of me having an email list personally in a moment. It's personally something that I'm terrible at, completely terrible at. But
you can do it, man.
Yeah, I know, and we got to chat about that. So somebody tweeted, when Brian Dean sends an email, you read it. That's his tweet. I think he's saying that, like, people look forward to your emails. Like, what are the things you're putting in your emails when you're communicating with people, when you're talking to them, besides the typical provide them value, don't spam them, what do people get excited about, look forward to? I mean, even I read all your emails that you send. So what are the elements you're putting into that keep and capture people's attention?
That's a good question. I think before we get into the nuts and bolts, it's kind of an overarching philosophy of what I recommend that is sort of like providing value generic, but it's actually some actionable strategy too. And that is to sell when you're going to sell, and don't sell when you're not going to sell. Because the biggest mistake I see people make with email is that they'll do this. So they'll go, oh, I want to provide value in my email. I run a coffee shop. So send an email about the 10 health benefits of coffee, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then at the end, let's say, hey, by the way, if you want to get 10% off of running a promotion right now, come by the coffee shop. That's email marketing fail. You really need to go all in with selling or not. And I feel like that distinction is better for you, and it's also better for your readers or your subscribers because they know what to expect. It feels like kind of a bait and switch. I get those emails sometimes. I'm sure you get them too. You read it and it's like a story. It's kind of interesting, some value in there, and then at the end it's like, by the way, I have this course that can teach you more. It just feels kind of scammy. It's like kind of a bait and switch. So I like to make a huge distinction between when I'm selling and when I'm not. That way people know that they're getting 100% value or 100% being sold to.
Right.
And obviously what I sell provides value, but it's a different thing. So I think if you're going to go with that approach, you'll do a lot better. People will look forward to your emails because they know what they're going to get. There's that anticipation of like, this is going to be all value, or this is going to be all an offer of some kind.
So like in your mind, you're not like, it's very clear, right? You're not straddling the fence between like, is this a sales email or an informational email? It's like all or nothing one way or the other.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't work to try to straddle. It's like a blog post. Like I'm sure you tell your clients if they run like a Twitter marketing company, you don't want to put like 5 benefits of Twitter. Like a lot of people do that. They'll be like, okay, what do we sell? We'll make a blog post about that. Right. And then at the end, put a call to action. Right. It's the same thing in an email. It's a piece of content. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think definitely people appreciate in a way, again, to bring up Gary Vaynerchuk, the whole jab, 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 right hook thing. Like when he tries to land a right hook, it's so obvious, like he's in sales mode. And I think people appreciate that because then they can go, okay, like I get what you're doing, and then they can decide very quickly whether to tune in or not. So it's almost like you're just like putting that right out there up front. Right. And I feel like that philosophy totally makes sense. So let's talk about the nuts and bolts a little. One thing I notice about your emails is that there's no images at all. There's a lot of spaces between. There's like no paragraphs. Like they're all very short. Like, what are kind of the tactical elements you're putting into your emails to make them more effective?
Yeah, the first thing is deliverability. So before you can even write something, you have to really focus on deliverability, or else no one will see it. And I've just tested this again, and putting an image in your email is almost automatic going in the promotions tab. It doesn't matter what the image is, how big it is, where it is, just any image is going to make your email like twice as likely to go into promotions tab. Not for everybody because it is somewhat personalized. If you love one person's email newsletter, Google will figure that out, and Gmail will put it into your primary tab. But for the most part, if they're kind of like you, lukewarm, and then you put an image in, it's in the promotions tab. Right. Like I just did an email campaign recently for a piece of software. This is a right hook type of deal, but they're all selling. This is the part. Like it's not like this was a promotional email and the others weren't. Like I did 3 solid days of selling. 2 didn't have an image and 1 did, and the open rate on the ones that didn't have an image was like 50% higher. Wow. And it's all because they're going to promotions tab. Open rate, so it's not even people engaged. It had nothing to do with the content of the email.
When I picture the typical e-commerce email newsletter I get, it's all images. Yeah. So would you even recommend that an e-commerce company test just a pure text email? That seems to go so far against what the normal e-commerce newsletter is.
And even non-e-commerce newsletters. Yeah. They want that fancy design and branding and all that stuff. Yeah. I would definitely try it. I mean, if you're in marketing and not willing to try something, then you're probably in the wrong business. So I would say, look, you're an e-commerce site. It's the ultimate opportunity to put images in of your products and things. It's like, it'd be crazy not to use images, but try it. See what happens. That's the only way to find out. I would definitely recommend trying it, and it also helps you write better copy because when you don't have images, you really have to step up your copy game because you can't just put an image you can't use that as a crutch. You really have to write really well to keep people engaged, especially for an e-commerce site.
Right. So you actually, before we get to that, I do want to talk about your new tool, YoRocket, which we'll get to in a second. Okay, so I want to get to my email dilemma here. Okay. I've thought about setting up an email list, right? It's just something I haven't done for whatever reason. So let me step back. So I have a goal, sort of a loose goal that I mentioned to Sujan when I interviewed him, to interview James Altucher at some point on my show, right? It's just, I've been a fan of his for years. And And Sujan said, okay, start following him, build a relationship, the whole thing I do anyways, I've been doing all along. So I had the opportunity to ask James a question on Twitter one day, because he does these weekly Q&As. And my question to James was, how do I promote my podcast, this very podcast you're listening to? He said, build an email list. So my sort of approach from here would be to say, okay, big, awesome influencer says do this. I want to do it and show him that I've taken his advice as the next step in kind of any relationship, really, right? Like if an influencer gives you advice, you should take it and actually show them you've put it into action. So James says, Dan, build an email list to promote your podcast. So I went to my MailChimp account. I had like 50 people in there from 2013 when I put this random email capture thing on my website. And let's just start there. I don't know what to do with it, right? So I had this idea where I would promote the email list as a way to give people a chance to ask questions of my guests. An exclusive chance to ask questions of my guests before I interview them, right? Before anybody knows I'm interviewing them. So I was going to interview Rand Fishkin, and so I sent an email to the 60 people on my list, and I said, hey, I'm interviewing Rand. I'm not telling anyone else. Here's your chance to get a question in. I had like one person write back, and he was my friend. So I think I feel like maybe that was getting a little too fancy with it. What would you recommend for somebody like me, and you know me pretty well? What do I do? I don't even know what to do. Like, what value can what should I do to build an email list?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's like anything, man. Getting started is really hard because you have like so many things to factor in. We're talking about images and deliverability and promotions tab and pop-ups and welcome mats and how you collect the emails and what do you do with them. So I'd say it's like working out. If you're out of shape and you want to get in shape, go to the gym for 5 minutes. Right, you go in there and you just work out for 5 minutes and then you leave. If you stay longer, it's a bonus. It's like with me. My New Year's resolution this year was to start flossing, and I always hated flossing. I hated it. I did it, and it would hurt, and I would give up. And this year, I actually did it. I stuck with it, and the difference was that I started with one tooth. As ridiculous as that sounds.
Tim Ferriss has mentioned that.
Tim Ferriss has mentioned it because there's research behind it. Yeah. So I did one tooth, and I felt ridiculous for doing one tooth, and I put it away. And you kind of have this reserve of like effort. Rather than going above your reserve effort, you just have more. Then you do 2 teeth, and then 3 teeth, and then 4 teeth. And before you know it, you're doing them all.
Right.
And I think it's the same with an email list. I would start by just saying, get updated next time I publish every time I publish a podcast. So it's another way to get notified besides being subscribed on your phone. So I'd put that on every podcast that you have, and then create a text template that is for every guest. So literally it'd be like, hey guys, today I'm interviewing Brian Dean from Backlinko, 5 bullet points of what you'll learn. You probably have something, you already have a write-up actually on the post. Just copy and paste that in there, and here's a link to check it out.
So that adds value. That's not duplicative. I'm assuming these people probably follow me on Twitter. Maybe they've subscribed to my iTunes feed. The first reservation I have about that is, how is that not just bothering people in yet another place?
It is. It's not providing a ton of value, but it's definitely providing some, because the original reason that people subscribe to newsletters was to get notified when posts came out, like before RSS feeds and things like that. That was the original reason, and I think this is a good approach just to get your feet wet. I know some bloggers have huge email lists, and all they do is publish the email when they publish blog posts. They have like 300,000 happy, engaged email subscribers. Because when they send them a piece of content, people aren't going to judge your value of the email on the email itself. It's what you're providing. So if they like the podcast, they're not going to feel bothered by that.
So I shouldn't overthink, what am I going to say? Should I add extra content to the email?
No, man. You should do that eventually.
Yeah.
Of course. But to start, I would literally start with, and I'm going to ask you, I'm going to hold you to this. Yeah. Try it. See how it goes. If people are emailing saying, look, this is bugging me, I'm already seeing this elsewhere, then you can try something else.
Yeah.
But I think, especially on Twitter, you know how busy it is.
Yeah.
People don't see tweets.
Yeah. So
unless they're subscribed to your podcast, and even then, because they might be subscribed to 20,
yeah,
and just the feed is really big, they might see it and say, oh, I'll listen to that later and forget. and the email is another reminder.
Right.
Just a simple way to get started.
Yeah.
And also get into the habit of like sending people emails and ask them, let me know what you think. And then a lot of people reply to emails, and you get great feedback on what to do next.
Right. So one thing too is, because I had these just old legacy random 50, 60 people subscribe to my list already, I probably overthought if it would just be weird if they all of a sudden received an email from me 4 years later promoting my podcast with no context. Like I almost felt like I wanted to give them a chance to unsubscribe, or like, hey, like I'm reviving this list. Here's what's going to happen. Do you think that I should just forget about it?
I would just forget about it. I would either just like delete the emails if you feel like they're kind of legacy.
Yeah.
Start a new list, fresh.
Yeah.
It's only 50. Right. So who cares?
Yeah.
If that shouldn't let the 50 people interfere with your plan. So just like either delete the 50 or start sending them. And as an opportunity to unsubscribe, they always have at the bottom of the email.
Yeah.
And within Gmail, you can actually click unsubscribe at the top of the email now, and it unsubscribes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they really have an opportunity, like no matter what it is, basically Gmail takes that unsubscribe link and puts it at the top.
Right.
And when you click unsubscribe, it sends a message directly to MailChimp in your case and tells them to unsubscribe. So they don't have to click on the next page and then enter the email again or anything like that. So there's plenty of opportunities to unsubscribe.
Right.
So I just try it and see how it goes. But the fact that they subscribe shows me they probably want to see your podcast and hear your podcast and see what you're up to.
So actually, let's just do this right here, right now. If you go to EvolvingSEO.com, on any page in the whole site, there's a MailChimp box. Just give me your email, and I'll send you an update anytime we post a new show.
Nice, dude.
Take an action.
Just try it.
Yeah.
And you can use a text template, every time you have a guest. That's what I use for blog posts. I use the same template every time, and I just fill in the blanks.
Yeah. So, and what was I going to ask there? Oh, yeah. Is that the best? So, in a podcast scenario, just telling them to go to my website and there's a box anywhere, is that kind of the least amount of friction? Should I set up like a landing page? Or?
Yeah, what I do is I have the homepage set up like that. So I just say go to backlinko.com and sign up for the newsletter. That way people can literally just go to backlinko.com, go to the site, and the newsletter email form is right there.
Yeah.
That's usually the easiest way to do it.
Yeah. All right. You heard it here first. We're going to do that. So sign up for the list, and you'll get notifications for new episodes, and maybe I'll get fancier with that.
Yeah, plus
later.
other cool stuff. I think you're definitely onto something with this like exclusive idea. But I always like the idea of starting small, getting into the habit of sending emails, because when I first started sending emails, I was like petrified. It's really an irreversible, scary thing.
Yeah.
And because email is so intimate, you're right next to like emails from someone's mom, right? It's someone's girlfriend. It's like pretty intense place to be. On Twitter, that it's not it's public, right? So it's very different. And I was really paranoid. But once I got into the habit of it, now I make sure it's proofread and everything like that. But when I send it, I do get that little panic moment that it's going out to 80,000 people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, okay, it's going to be all right because I've sent so many.
Yeah. And so I was going to ask the size of your list. You just said about 80,000. Do you have like is there a certain amount of people that unsubscribe, like a percentage, or like what's kind of the churn of that?
Yeah, I don't pay too much attention to that. I think, because Aweber gives stats on that, I think I lose about like 1/10% or 0.5%.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So not a big deal.
I don't really worry about the unsubscribes.
Yeah.
I want to, it's like the people, like Tim Ferriss says, it's not about the people that don't get it, it's about the people that do.
Right.
So if I send an email and you say, this isn't for me, I unsubscribe, then it's not for you, right?
Yeah.
So no hard feelings. I'm not going to try to win you over somehow.
Yeah.
Because there are 79,500 people that didn't unsubscribe.
Right.
So I'd rather serve them.
Okay, great. I want to jump into one listener question. While we jump into that, I'm going to check Twitter on my iPad and see if there's any more. But Austin Walker said he wants to know from you, any relatively efficient outreach tips for local service area business link building for small businesses with owners doing everything? So I guess the gist of that is, if you have any tips for small local businesses in terms of link building, should they even be doing link building at all?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's definitely, like you said, Dan, because you do this stuff actually more than me nowadays, that should they even be doing link building? It's a legitimate question, because a lot of times it doesn't even make sense if you're a local painter in a small town. Do you really need to be using BuzzStream and emailing a bunch of people and setting up link building campaigns? So I'd say the number one thing is all you need to do if you're a local business is it's almost easier. It's harder in some ways, but it's it's easier. It's kind of like Gary Vee says, every company is a media company now. So a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll hide behind the fact that I'm a local business, I'm busy, I don't have time to do SEO, so I'm not going to do it. Basically, is there any way I can rank without doing anything? That's like the gist of those questions, at the core of it.
Yeah.
And the fact is, no, you have to put in effort, because the other guy is. Your competitors are hiring agencies who know what they're doing and are hustling every day. And if you're not, and you're saying, look, I'm too busy, then maybe SEO isn't something you should be focusing on right now.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just, it takes time and effort. And if you're not willing to put that in, then it's not going to work.
I'm going to guess a little, maybe what he's getting at too. So your tactic, by and large, for link acquisition is through content. Mm-hmm. Create the best content that generates links, whether proactively or naturally. Maybe what he's asking there is there another tactic that would work for a local business? Because maybe they're not creating 10x content. Maybe they're more about, local business types of stuff. Are there any link acquisition tactics you're aware of for like a local business?
Yeah, what's all that stuff? The local chamber of commerce.
Yeah.
Local blogs that blog about businesses in the area.
Events.
You put on events or go to events or sponsor events. There's all that typical stuff. So yeah, there's definitely opportunities. But the cool thing is, if you're a local business, to build links to your site, you only need one great piece of content.
Right.
So I always feel like, a lot of local businesses, they're intimidated, and I would be too if I was busy running my business and I was like, all of a sudden I have to blog every week and have a Twitter following and Snapchat and all this stuff. It's like, no, actually, to build links, all you really need is like your local business, services stuff, one awesome piece of value providing content that's related to what you do or sell, and then you can build links to that all day long.
Yeah.
And as long as you do that, you're pretty, and because the competition is so, they're not doing anything probably, or they're building like these weak links or spammy links, you can blast by them pretty easily.
The thing I'd say, I don't know what type of local business he's referring to, but web design. So many local businesses, restaurants. My wife and I are looking at getting a second dog, so we're looking at dog breeder websites. They are so bad. I feel like you can win as a local business if you just simply have the best website as well. Like, how many restaurant websites have you been to, and there's not even a phone number in the top, I feel like if they just added a phone number in the top right-hand side of every page, that would get them so much more business probably.
And it's good for SEO, right?
Right.
Because people will be happier with the result, and Google will know.
Exactly, because you get the user metrics. So there were no other questions on Twitter.
Okay.
Have you noticed it's like a quiet week for some reason?
I think Twitter, man, is just, it's not that active anymore.
Yeah, it's funny because
I think you're not alone. I send out tweets, man. I think maybe, I get one reply if I'm lucky.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to focus on Twitter a lot. So this week has been super quiet, but sometimes I have things go crazy on Twitter. Now I'm not finding an example. I tweeted something about the podcast.
Yeah.
And it got 19 likes.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and that was this week.
But that's different. The comments, that's the hardest part. I feel like that's really hard to get.
Yeah.
Getting people to really take time to leave a comment on Twitter, it's tough, man.
Yeah, it seems like there's certain, this is all this week, there's some weeks where things just go crazy on Twitter. Like this Moz thing here, got 19 likes, 9 retweets. But I have noticed a diminishing return in attention for Twitter, which is a little sad.
Yeah, it is sad because Twitter's cool. But it's another reason to invest in email because you don't have to worry about it. Trust me, you get a lot of replies whether you want them or not with email.
Yes.
People are more likely to reply in an email because they know only you are going to see it.
Yeah.
Which is good and bad.
I mean, this one here.
20. Oh.
Yeah, 35 retweets and 63 likes.
And you probably got some comments on that too.
Yeah, got some comments. So it's funny, Twitter, I've noticed Twitter go in waves. I don't know if it's because it's the last week in August. People are on vacation. They're looking forward to Labor Day here in the States. They're just not paying attention to Twitter. I'm not sure what's going on with that there. But anyways, let me go back to my questions here. So I want to talk to you about YoRocket, your new tool. So this... explain to people what YoRocket is, and then I have a few questions.
Okay, sure. So YoRocket was actually something that I built for internal use. So over the last year, I've been really obsessing about organic click-through rate. So not really so much as a ranking factor, although I think it is a ranking factor because I've seen it many times happen right in front of my eyes that I've changed something that gets a higher click-through rate and then the rankings improve. And it makes sense that Google would use this data. They wouldn't just ignore it. But more just to get more traffic because there's some keywords like, for example, e-commerce SEO. I've been stuck at number 3 for that result for like 18 months. And I even went back to the post. It was an old case study of someone how they built links with e-commerce to an e-commerce site. And I changed it to like this e-commerce ultimate guide, like custom design, 7 chapters about keyword research and on-page SEO and site architecture and link building, like everything about on-page SEO, number 3. And I have 2 Kissmetrics posts ranking above me. They have the double. And I just cannot seem to break through the number 1 spot no matter what I do. So I figure, well, I can keep trying, or I can just increase my click-through rate at the number 3 spot. So the problem I was finding was, one, I didn't know which titles were going to do better. I had to manually kind of like look at the title and be like, all right, it doesn't have a number, which is a big one for click-through rate. If the emotional sentiment was there, which is a big one for click-through rate, I'd use this EMV calculator that was built in like the year 2000, and you put it in and it gives you some score. So I was like doing all this, taking like forever to write something, and then to see how it did. What I was doing, I was taking a screenshot of the old title and putting the date as a file name, then taking a screenshot of the new title and then checking my analytics and comparing it to the old one. It was ridiculously time consuming. And then I'd find out sometimes it wasn't better and have to go through the whole process again.
Yeah.
So I realized that there needs to be a tool to make this better, and I couldn't find anything. I found some like A/B testing stuff for SEO, but nothing really what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So I created Your Rocket. It basically has 2 elements. One, it optimizes your title and description tag for click-through rate. So it scores it based on variables that are shown to increase click-through rate. And then it has testing within the tool. So you publish a new title and it can see which one, if it performs better or not.
Yeah, yeah.
That way you don't have to keep doing this stuff. Basically, it's a huge time saver. That's why I built it.
Oh, excellent. So this is a WordPress plugin.
Exactly.
And then, so this is it subscription model?
Yes.
Is that what it is? Okay, so what is it, like 20 a month
It's
or
30 a
something?
month.
30 a month, okay. So go to yorocket.com.
That's right, yeah, yourrocket.com.
To check it out, awesome. So I'm glad we talked about click-through a little. I know we planned on lunch, so I was going to say if you have a few more minutes, but I know you have a few more minutes because we've got a calendar slot until 1 for lunch. I just want to save time to make sure we eat.
Cool.
But I wanted to touch upon just SEO overall, kind of the industry, where we're at. It was funny because your sort of philosophy to SEO, like you said earlier with email, is it's a philosophy of simplicity. It's of doing the things you know work. They've worked for a long time. And you kind of seem to be able to tune out all of the noise, all of these other things, the minutiae that people kind of get bogged down by. Your philosophy is like simple: create content, rank it, get traffic, convert that traffic. Maybe do some link building to help it. I interviewed John Alderson yesterday about this whole issue of like the SEO agency and client relationship. And we were talking about the challenges of getting the CEOs to understand and like what should you do in building these big metric dashboards and there's all this discussion in the SEO industry, like, you know, what does an SEO do? What should they do? What are the expectations? I'm just wondering your take on this whole discussion of like, do you even think about like, where's the industry at? Where is it going? What should people be providing as SEO? You know, is it manipulative? Like, what's your whole thought about the industry as a whole?
Yeah, I actually don't spend a lot of time thinking or reading about that. I don't feel like it doesn't really help anybody because the industry, it is what it is. Unless you're like a huge influencer, you can't like move it one way or the other. And I feel like even influencers get it wrong, like Moz, for example. They were talking about, you know, they went away from SEO because they felt like it was going to be integrated with everything, and they created a tool that wasn't for SEO called Moz Analytics. They changed from SEO Moz to Moz, and they were wrong. And now they're going back towards SEO stuff. So I feel like it's kind of like the predictive thing. You can try to predict the future, and if you're right, it's great, but if not, you're wrong. So I feel like SEO, it's one of those things that's been dead for like, how long now? 10 years, right? It'll always be dead. It'll always be like something that'll be integrated. But I always feel like it's a specialized field. And like anything, I think the reason SEO is a little bit weird is because you could do it independent of anything else for a while. Like back in 2005 or 2006, you could have a terrible website with terrible customer service, terrible conversions, terrible content, and it could still rank number one, right? Because you could just do SEO and manipulate it to that spot. And now that you can't do that anymore, it is more integrated with other stuff like UX, like we had mentioned, and design, and whether people like your brand, whether people type your brand into Google, all that stuff is important now. So I feel like it is more integrated with other things, but it's not going to change that much. It'll always be a specialized skill. How can you get more traffic from search engines? And that will be what we do. And as long as search engines exist, there'll always be SEO. That's kind of how I feel. And that is not going to change in like 2 weeks based on some announcement. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, we, with the small agency we have providing SEO, we feel the pain of this sometimes because when a new lead comes in, the discussion can go in any number of directions. Maybe they've come to me as an SEO provider thinking that we build links, or thinking we create content, or thinking we do audits, or thinking they have all these ideas about what they want, what they think they're going to get, how long it's going to take. And I find that if you're really going to provide SEO as an agency and do it right, you almost have to go to square one every single time and not totally reinvent the wheel, but like start at ground zero with the discussion. And it's a pain that we feel because it makes even that just initial discussion process very, very in-depth, very detailed. And then once you get into the relationship with the client, it's not always clear even at that point what we're providing, what we're doing, what the expectations are. And that's one of the things Jono was trying to tackle was like developing this sort of analytics spreadsheet to align expectations, right? The CEO wants one thing, the person doing the link building wants another thing, right? So, and I know you've been at agency work for a while, but what are your thoughts on the agency-client relationship and kind of reconciling these complicated issues?
It's a good question. That's something I'm much more in tuned in because I used to run an agency, as you mentioned. And also, a lot of my students in SEO that works and Yo Rocket customers are also agency owners. So I definitely have my ear to the ground with that sort of thing. I think the best way around it is because you said it's the client will come with, like you said, 25 different clients will have 25 different expectations of what you do. And you should be the one dictating what you do, not them, right? So I like the number one thing is to have deliverables every month that are what you're going to provide. And the problem with the analytics approach is that you can control the results somewhat, but not 100%. And you should have benchmarks of results that you have to deliver in addition to the things you do. So for example, if you take on a client, be like, okay, here, based on your site, here's what I think we should do. Every month, we'll create one awesome piece of content and we'll promote it to influencers and we'll use like Dimitri's strategies for some PR and things like that. That's what we'll do every single month. And if things go well, this is the kind of benchmarks you can expect in terms of organic traffic and leads and sales and based on some basic numbers. That's something I actually learned from Neil Patel, who had an agency back in like 2003. He was like an 18-year-old kid doing SEO for like GM and Viacom and stuff. And the reason he was able to get to these people to approve him was that he really focused on the sales numbers. And what he did was, even though that you have to kind of do some guesstimates, what he would do is say, okay, every month we're going to do this. And if we can get you to position 3 based on this click-through rate, based on this blah, 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 you can make this much more money. That way it's an easy sell. And even if he didn't promise that, but he said, if things go well, this is what can happen. And when you start talking in dollars, you speak anyone's language in the company.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's ultimately what they're responsible for.
Yeah, I mean, your sort of central approach seems to revolve around content, right? And the trouble we find is when we get into the weeds, we see these technical issues, we see that they're not following through on social, or the customer experience is bad. So oftentimes we find ourselves getting into these areas, these rabbit holes that we're all of a sudden trying to help them plug up because they're just not doing a great job, because that reflects back on us. All those things impact SEO in one way or another. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, is it just focus on content and let that fall into place? Or what if the agency sees these other issues? Do we even go down that rabbit hole? Because now we're providing digital services, we're not just doing content-based SEO.
It's really hard, man. It's very client dependent, depending on how bad those issues are. Obviously not everything's gonna be optimized, but if they're getting like, people are leaving bad reviews on review sites and they're not building links because their brand is really bad, and on social people are complaining, or they just tweet out nonsense, and then you're like, oh, we're going to do the skyscraper technique and everything's going to be fine. Obviously that's not the case, or they have huge technical SEO problems that need to be overcome. That's why, my focus on content, it's assuming those things are already going well, which, like you said, is very rarely the case. But I think the key, no matter what, is to be clear about what your responsibilities are, what you can do. And that's why when you hire an SEO agency, if they don't work with the other people, if you kind of say, okay, do SEO and we'll do everything else, that's never going to work, as you've probably found. Because you're saying, hey, we're doing our best, but the technical SEO is a mess because 3 months ago we asked them to change something and your developer hasn't done it yet. You know, things like that happen all the time. So I think as an SEO agency, the key is to be really clear with what you can and can't do from the start, and say, look, and also have a real deep look at their site beforehand so you can identify this stuff and say, look, we noticed these technical SEO issues, assuming these can be fixed, and I also saw some social opportunities, assuming these can be fixed on your end, we're going to do great. If not, it might not work as well. So it's up to you how you want to do it, but we'll do our best on our end.
Totally. So last question. Before we hit record here, we were chatting about Facebook ads. You're starting to get into this a little bit. Any initial observations, takeaways, tactics that you've picked up by running Facebook ads?
I think the number one thing is, like we talked about email, is to start slow. So I have this buddy of mine who runs a huge yoga site. It's like probably the number 1 or 2 yoga site in the world. And he's really like, we need to start doing Facebook ads. So what he was like, I'm going to do, I have my buddy who's also going to do it, who runs a business, and we're going to rent a cabin in some place in Germany. We're going to like spend a weekend there and just do Facebook ads the whole weekend. And I was like, dude, that is like the stupidest way to approach anything. You know what I mean? It's like, I kind of get that, like otherwise to be distracted by other stuff, but all you need to do to start with Facebook ads is like run an ad. And you'll learn so much more than, you don't need a weekend, you don't need a day, you don't need an hour, you need 15 minutes to create an ad and start learning. So I think the number one thing is to, mistake I made actually when I started Facebook ads was, I had like 8 campaigns. I was basically going to the cabin in the woods. That's why I told him it was stupid, because I did that. I didn't go anywhere physically, but I did the same thing. I had I need to just do Facebook ads. I had 20 campaigns, 8 campaigns, 20 ads, different copy, doing split tests, different images, and I'd log in and have no idea what was what. Because I'd never done Facebook ads, right? Like when I first started doing AdWords for clients, I didn't know what I was doing, and I felt the same sort of overwhelm. And eventually I learned it, and I could do multiple campaigns and ad groups and things like that. But with Facebook ads just starting, I recommend doing one ad with one group to one page and one conversion, and just seeing how it goes. I think you'll learn a lot from that, and then iteratively growing that to eventually full-blown campaigns.
So you mentioned one thing you were trying with YoRocket before we hit record. What was that little tactic there?
So that little tactic was basically, like I said, I built YoRocket internally, but it was ugly, it was weird. It's just built for you. It's the kind of stuff you build for yourself is never meant for the public-facing market. So what I did is I had my designer create what it would look like as more of a public tool. So the similar functionality, but what it would look like, and created a landing page. Actually, it was not called YoRocket, it was just like a generic name, and it had a big hero shot of what it was, and some features, and the opportunity to buy it. And I did that because I wanted to see if anyone would actually buy this thing if I sold it before I built this huge public face. There's a huge difference between some internal tool and a public one before I invested all this time and money into it. So I ran Facebook ads to that page and asked people to buy it, which is really hard to do for cold traffic. And I had no brand. People were commenting on the ad like, who are you? Like, what is this thing? But some people actually did buy it. So that was enough of a proof of concept to say, oh, there's a market for this, a tool that helps people increase their click-through rate.
Awesome. And then the targeting on that, I think, was something you mentioned. You targeted the backlinko fans?
Exactly. It was people that had visited the site, so it was retargeting.
Okay.
Because I figured when I ultimately do sell YoRocket to the bigger world, it'll be to those same people that have visited backlinko. So I might as well target that same group and see if they're interested. Because if I went and targeted HubSpot, people who liked HubSpot's Facebook page, and they bought it, that's great. But how am I going to get in front of those people? I guess I could do it with Facebook ads. But otherwise, how would I get in front of those people? This way I knew I was targeting my community without showing that this was a backlinko product at all. That way, when it is a backlinko product, there's a proof of concept with the generic product, plus the brand will help itself.
Right. So did you use your email list to create that audience?
No, it's just literally a Facebook pixel you put on your site.
Oh, to retarget.
Exactly.
Right.
Just when people visit any page.
So have you thought about or played around with the email lookalike audiences? So you could use your email list and upload those and create a lookalike audience.
I have done that. I've done that for because I use Facebook ads also for building an email list, and I haven't found the lookalike audience to be very accurate.
Interesting.
And even with a big group, I think maybe with a big group it's even less accurate, because with something like backlinko traffic, it's kind of it's somewhat heterogeneous group. They're all interested in SEO, but on Facebook, if you looked at the two profiles, you'd have no idea. Unless it was like you and Aleda and Aleda Solis or someone like that, those two, you'd be like, okay, these people are both SEOs. But like, someone interested in SEO could be a flower shop owner.
Oh, right.
It could be a guy, an affiliate marketer. It could be a college kid who wants to go into SEO when he graduates. It could be someone who's starting their first affiliate marketing website. It could be a black hat person who never talks about SEO on Facebook. So there aren't a lot of commonalities in terms of like demographics on Facebook so when I put the lookalike audience, it just converted terribly, because they were saying, okay, this person is from Oregon and they like Rage Against the Machine, so they must like, and you have a bunch of subscribers that are like that, so this must be targeted. This person doesn't know what SEO stands for, and I was targeting them. Right. So I feel like the lookalike audience, it can work if you're targeting like moms of a certain ilk, but if you have this like kind of weird interest that people don't generally talk about on Facebook, like SEO or health problems and things like that, then it probably won't work as well.
Got it. And did you try using like a headshot in the ad image itself, like a headshot of you to get that kind of personal brand recognition? Or did you try other images?
It has a picture of me and the ones that we use. We also use like some ebook images and testing different things. This is when I was further along with Facebook ads, after I had learned a lot.
Right. Did you find that the headshot or not headshot got better clicks?
A face usually gets better clicks in general.
Yeah, that's what I would assume.
Even if you have a face for a podcast, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It always works.
Cool.
I'm sure if I was like a hot woman for a demographic of mostly men, it would do better. But yeah, the face generally does work better.
Awesome. Well, Brian, it's been great being up with you.
Thanks, man. Cheers.
We're gonna go grab lunch.